In this clip, me and Jay ran at each other and hit each other. In this scenario, we would be a third law pair. This means that for every amount of force that I exert on Jay, I will feel the same amount of force exerted back at me. This can also be seen in this clip where Jay hits his head against the wall. This is an example of a third law pair because for every amount of force that Jay hits the wall with, the wall will exert the exact same amount of force back at Jay. These are force diagrams of Jay and the wall as Jay hit his head against the wall. The force of Jay on the wall and the force of wall on Jay are equal because they are third law pairs, which means they are equal and opposite to each other. One of the most important parts of football is the extra friction that cleats give the players to grip the ground better. If players didn't wear cleats and they just wore normal shoes, they would have a lot less friction to the ground and they would not be able to cut like you see in these clips, or they would be slipping all over the place. Also, without friction, players would not be able to hold on the ball, they would not be able to tackle other players, and they would also not be able to block or catch the ball. The reason that cleats provide more friction is because in the equation of friction, it is the force of friction equals the coefficient of friction times the normal force. Cleats have a higher coefficient of friction than shoes, which makes them more sticky. Another big part of football is inertia. In this clip, Jay walks up to me with very little speed, and in turn, he hits me with very little force. This is because more speed equals more force. In this clip, he came at me with a lot more speed and in turn hit me a lot harder. When two people run at each other full speed, it generates a lot of force, and in this case, the wide receiver gets knocked out. Gravity is obviously a huge part of all parts of football, but it is especially big with punting and kicking. If there was no gravity, the ball would never stop going upwards and we would never know if it went in or not. With punting, not only would the ball never stop going upwards on the kick, but it would never stop going upwards on the snap as well. This means the punter would never even have a chance to grab the ball to kick it in the first place. When people watch football, the first thing they notice is all the pads that people wear. The entire point of the pads and the helmet especially is to increase the time of impact so your body comes to a stop slower than it would if there was no pads. In the video on screen, the top of Jay's helmet flexes inwards a little bit on top of the padding that's inside the helmet to increase the time of impact as much as possible on your head. This flexion also absorbs some of the impact from me hitting his head. To demonstrate Newton's first law, I'm going to come back to this clip. I think this is a really good clip to demonstrate Newton's first law because I am an object at rest and I do not move until I'm acted on by an outside force, which is Jay. After Jay pushes me, I move in a perfectly straight line, and I do not stop moving until I'm stopped by another outside force, which is the walker in this scenario. Part of the reason NFL quarterbacks strive to throw the perfect spiral is to decrease drag. The less drag a throw has, the more aerodynamic it is. Drag is the force that acts in the opposite direction of the way that the ball is traveling. Because of the shape of the ball, if the ball is traveling in a perfect spiral, the air will travel easily above and below the ball. If it is not traveling in a perfect spiral, the air will have a harder time traveling above and below, and therefore it will not go as far.